And then please just keep yourself muted until it's your turn to speak. For those people who are in the audience, just make sure you keep yourself muted as well. So welcome everybody. This is the 2020 this year's cohort. We have students from Arts and Letters, the College of Science, the College of Engineering, and the Law School. And this cohort represents 11 different academic programs at the university. As participants in the program, we began exactly 1 year ago. And over the course of the year, we've met for about 100 hours face-to-face or online and in person, and about every 3 weeks. And this is officially our 21st meeting of the year. As part of this program, each participant was asked to self-identify a leadership and social engagement project. It could be anything that they wanted, but it needed to be of their own design and something where they could practice what they're learning in real time. I will put in the chat function a link to our website where you can go in and see the projects, but that might be part of the conversations that they have with the audience today. The goal of this program was to learn more about themselves as leaders and develop perspectives on the social impact of their work. So in the fall, we spent time on ourselves, who we are, what's important to us. We did things like the DISC assessment, where we looked at how our personality and communication styles influence our leadership abilities. We talked about our values. We achieved some clarification on them. We talked about emotional intelligence and how can we lead with recognizing the emotions in ourselves and in others. And then we also talked about crucial conversations, among other things, over the fall. In the spring, we transitioned to thinking about the work that we do, the social responsibilities we have as researchers, the values in research, and research communication. Also in the spring, we asked participants in the program to take a deep dive into a particular topic of interest, and in that process, they developed and led a workshop of their own design. Also in the spring, we engaged in leadership crucibles. We revisiting a formative experience that shaped who we are as leaders. And then finally, in the summer months, we've been tying things together and looking towards the future. So today we celebrate the end of the program, and in a few minutes, you'll hear from each student as they reflect on their experience. I've not given them much direction as to what to say, because being a leader is trying to find clarity in a sea of ambiguity, and this is my final challenge to them as participants in the program. Before I turn it over to them, I want to briefly offer my own reflection. Each symposium I try to come up with a word, an idea, an image, something that captures the year for me. And late at night, one day last week, I think I had some clarity on that. And what I've chosen is appreciation. And I'll be brief, but there are 3 reasons why this is the word I chose. One, it's the sincere appreciation the students had for each other in this program. And that came out every time we met. The program asked participants to be vulnerable and challenge each other. And the way in which this group supported each other through this journey was amazing. The second reason I chose appreciation is my appreciation for what they taught me. I'm so thankful that I get to grow along with each cohort as we move throughout the year. And it's always a learning experience getting to interact with these highly motivated, very intelligent, very dedicated PhD students. And then finally, and this will be a good transition, my appreciation for Amanda, who was the mentor for this year's cohort and a previous participant in the program herself. I counted on her for a lot this year, and she really stepped up in a big way. And so my appreciation goes out to her as well. So speaking of Amanda, she's next up to speak. And then after that, I will also put the program agenda into the chat as a PDF document. And we'll just follow along, and I'll call on each person to speak, and then we'll just move through the group. And then at the end, I will wrap up with a few short words. Thank you. Amanda?
Yep. Thanks, John. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for coming. Just reflecting on the past year, even though I did this program in the previous cohort, I didn't stop growing. This was a really good growth opportunity for me. And in the beginning, I identified things that I wanted to particularly focus on as mentor for this year. And one of the biggest things was increasing our connections among the cohort, becoming closer, being able to lean on each other for support. And I felt that it went incredibly well. And I'm saying that from my perspective. I feel like I personally have gotten so much closer to all of the students and feel like I've made lifelong friends just by being the mentor. And it really has been an honor seeing the growth of the students and getting to know them. Each and every single person has grown so well. I met with them 3 times throughout the entire program, and seeing that growth trajectory from the very beginning all the way to the end has just, I don't have words. It's just been incredible to see the growth of each and every single one of the students. And so I feel incredibly honored. And in speaking with them in these meetings, everybody focused on these connections as well. And so I couldn't be happier that students really valued the ability to intermingle with other students and gain diverse perspectives, not just the perspectives of people within their field. And I think that this is a really important, crucial aspect of advancing a socially engaged leadership role throughout their lives. And it's something that we can truly value. So I just included in my slides some of the pictures. We did a lot of, we did some in-person things in the beginning. We went to, maybe we went mini golfing together. We went to Invanti, which is a previous student's own like workshop space where she funds startup companies. We then had to switch online. So we did like an award ceremony this past Sunday. And we've just had several Zoom socials. So it has been a lot of fun to get to know everybody. So yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Amanda. So we'll start with the first participant, Stephen.
All right, so hi everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great, thank you. So I grew a lot going through this program, and it's one thing for you to know how to be a leader, but it's also important for you to know who you are as a leader. And my original question going into this was, well, how can my research and what I do as an applied mathematician affect the world around me? And of course, the best way to learn how to answer a question is to teach about that question. And so the workshop that we did based off of was on the impact of your research. And that really helped to open my mind as to how I have an impact, how my research has an impact. But also another aspect that I wasn't looking at initially was, who am I as a leader? And we really took time to dwell on that question. This is who you are. This is how you work. This is how other people work, and how you interact with those people. And I especially want to encourage the incoming cohort to really pay attention to that aspect of knowing who you are as a leader, knowing how others lead, and how you work with those other leaders. And I've been applying a lot of these things that I've been learning through LASER to helping to develop a new GSU for the University of Notre Dame. We've been rewriting the Constitution for it from the ground up and establishing several new policies and procedures, the creation of college and master's liaisons so we have better feedback on where we need to improve, election guidelines, defined responsibilities for officers and representatives. And it's been a lot of work, and I'm very grateful for being able to serve on this project. we still have a lot of work to do, such as the formation of a financial committee and, of course, passing it through the GSU. But I'm very confident that we will have a very long-lasting impact. And I can't thank Laser enough for being grateful and helping me understand how I lead and how I can help others continue.
Great, thanks, Stephen. Next up is Emily.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Donahoe. Thanks, John. I joined the Laser program primarily because, like Stephen, I wanted to think about some of the ways in which I could take my research off of the written page and make it active in the world. So I'm a PhD student in English literature, and I study Shakespearean drama. And one of the things that informs my study of Shakespeare is my research on Renaissance pedagogy. So at the beginning of the year, I had a lot of ideas about how my work on the Renaissance classroom might inform my work in the 21st century classroom. So as part of my Laser project, I spent this year as a graduate associate at the Canab Center for Teaching and Learning at Notre Dame, developing pedagogical programming that was related to my interests. So for example, I've done a lot of work on debate in the Renaissance classroom, and in my role as GA at the Canab Center, I got to develop a workshop on teaching with debate, and you can see a photo of it in the background of the slide there. I'm also just broadly interested as an English literature student and as a researcher in what we can learn from literature. So why do we study it? What kinds of skills or habits of mind can it help us develop? And to answer some of these questions, and also to fill a gap in graduate student and professional development within my department, I had the opportunity to organize a series of workshops on teaching literature, which helped me and my peers think more deeply about why we study what we study and why what we teach is important and how it has effects on our students and out in the world. So unfortunately, halfway through last semester, COVID struck, and some of my programming that I had planned that was more directly connected to my research had to be canceled. But of course, to speak kind of crassly, the crisis provides its own opportunities for leadership. And using many of the tools I developed in Laser workshops, I was able to adapt to the new situation and adjust my plans for the second half of last semester to create programming that better fitted the needs of graduate instructors and to help them make the transition to online instruction, think deeply about how to teach during disruption. And even though it didn't have anything strictly to do with my research interests, I felt that it was needed and important, and I'm really happy to have been involved in that. So another thing that Laser has helped me think about is how my work might translate outside of the university context and into a public one. So I had two opportunities unexpectedly over the summer that helped me do that. I was able to moderate a panel through the Notre Dame Shakespeare Festival on Shakespeare in a Time of Plague, which was partially about making literary scholarship more accessible to a general audience. And I was able to write a public humanities piece, which was published in May, that drew on my own research to talk about disease and the body politic in Shakespeare's day and in our own day. And these are two opportunities I hadn't anticipated, but was better able to take advantage of because Laser had helped me prepare to think about how scholars can put their research to use outside of academia. So the last thing I'll say is that through the opportunities Laser has provided, I've not only been able to think about how I can apply my work more broadly, but how all the parts of my life are connected, how my values as a person and my interests as a scholar and my responsibilities as a citizen of the world can work together, and how I can use my strengths not only to advance my research, but also to make every sphere that I inhabit into a better one. And I think that's the most valuable thing about the Laser program. I'm very pleased about the way in which it's informed my research, teaching, and service both within the university and outside of it.
Great, thank you for your insights, Emily. Next up is Ben.
All right. Hi, folks. My name's Ben. I got involved with Laser as someone who has had some experience with leadership in the past in similar sorts of programs. And so one of the things that really excited me about getting into Laser was being able to do more of a deep dive into some of the theoretical basis. We read some books on leadership. We had a lot of long discussions about the philosophy behind leadership, and I really like taking this sort of more academic, deeper look into it, whereas in some programs you get very caught up in sort of the minutia of how to do things like public speaking, which are important skills, but I feel like this gives you an opportunity to go a little bit deeper than what you might see in other programs. As folks have mentioned, there was a lot of self-discovery between the crucibles and the various assessments and value selection that were all really useful. I think a really important part of this for me was mentoring. So some of this comes from being mentored. I had access to Amanda and John, who were really helpful. I had access to other folks around the university, but I also had access to all of my laser peers who, through their workshops and activities, got to mentor me. And I also had an opportunity to mentor all of them. My project involved doing a sort of leadership training through what's it called? It's an on-campus tutoring organization funded by the Department of Education, and we actually did an entire year of leadership curriculum, culminating in them going to a leadership symposium. And you can see a picture of me and some of the high school students who were awarded at that symposium. And so I feel like the mentoring aspect, mentoring, being mentored, mentoring peers, mentoring folks at a stage below me, I think these were all really excellent. And also, it's just a great opportunity as a grad student to meet someone outside of your lab or outside of your department. And these connections really came in handy. Current events beyond COVID, we've had a lot of things going on in society over the past few months, and the laser folks proved to be like a lightning rod, where there were folks across departments asking questions, talking about organizing and bringing conversations to the university's attention. And so I think those relationships across the university were really formative there. That's all I got.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. Next up, Yelena.
Thank you, John. So today I will talk about the journey of self-discovery, self-assessment, learning, and building strong networks. This slide covers the top 6 takeaways I got from Laser that I see as fundamental as we rise into empathic, inspiring, and effective leaders in our respective fields. It also summarizes a year-long transformative process with long-lasting impact on both my professional and personal life. Through the Laser program and self-assessment tests, I gained deeper knowledge about and better understanding of my strengths and weaknesses, which is one of the most important skills for ongoing and long-term effectiveness as a leader. I have also gotten a solid understanding of my emotional knowledge, ways to align my behavior with my core values and recognize correctly how others perceive me. Next big takeaway I gained from the program is related to communication and active listening. While being one of the most basic skills, communication is something that we develop and refine throughout our lifespan. The ability to effectively communicate about our research and to find the right words to get our work across in a clear and confident manner to a bunch of different potential audiences is an essential skill that we need to nurture, since society needs our expertise, our perspective, our evidence-based problem-solving skills for the future. On the flip side of the same coin, I see active listening skills. These skills can be acquired and developed with practice. The ability to be fully focused, understand what is being said, and responding appropriately will help us to build trust and respect, as well as to build and maintain strong positive relationships, both professionally and personally. Third takeaway is about the importance of connecting information from past and present experiences in a way that helps me make sense of my research and its potential positive impact in this new changing world. Being a lifelong, curious, and eager learner is an important quality that enables us to be authentic, honest, and leaders that challenge the status quo. Moreover, as future socially and ethically driven leaders, we need to take time to think about and understand important aspects of the self, our feelings, and merging new ideas, since it is extremely effective in creating a better sense of who we are, who we want to be, and how we will get there. Self-reflection also helps in increasing our adaptability and flexibility to changing situations and tough circumstances. Next, Laser was indispensable in bringing fellow students from different departments together. We are not always super connected on campus, so I value extremely the given opportunity to learn about my colleagues' research, interact and collaborate with them, and to be a member of this small interdisciplinary cohort. And finally, I believe that our research matters by generating evidence, translating that evidence into practice, and effectively communicate that to stakeholders in our research. is the way that we can bring about positive impact in our respective fields and in broader communities, while at the same time we build a better society. So I want to take this opportunity to thank John, Amanda, and my fellow colleagues for making this a really unique experience.
Great, thank you, and thank you for your perspectives on that. Next up is Asha.
Hello.
Asha, you're muted.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
You can, yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, John. So I'll start with my project. I tied up my project for laser with the position I had in GSU last year. It was the healthcare chair, and I was arranging different sessions and workshops on that benefits the graduate student mental as well as physical health. So since it went smoothly, I have specifically I'm thankful to my peer mentor group, which includes Ben, Emily, and Michael, to keep me on track. And I also got to know what they are doing, which is kind of a very, I would say, positive way to know about many projects which can impact the society. You probably, sometimes some of these ideas I have never had before. I'm like, oh, we could do this way. But the main change and the main impact on me is the personal impact. So my story is a little different from others because in the first half of the program, I rarely could attend it because my TA duty was clashing with the classes, laser sessions. And I managed to attend some, but not all. And, if you miss half of the classes of a course, you're like, okay, I cannot catch up to it anymore. And I was pleasantly surprised that I was wrong, which was great. So I'm like, okay, great. I probably would not have any connection with anyone because it's already half past. But then I attended the next step, and that too over Zoom, which I would say would probably be harder to connect. So the most wonderful part of all the sessions were the crucibles, where you talk about one of the incidents of your life which has been hard or challenging for you. I wouldn't say hard, but more like challenging to you and has been very significant for your growth. And knowing people at their vulnerable moment is like knowing their real self. So that is the moment I felt connected to my cohort. And then there are this other moments where I was uncertain what projects I should take up apart from my academics for the incoming years. And at that point of time, just the COVID breakout happened. All the university faculties were extremely busy for the transition. Within that transition period, I actually requested John for John offered me a meeting because I was asking so many questions, and he offered me a one-to-one meeting for mentoring me, which I really appreciate because it was a very busy time then. Some other events that really comes to my mind is the social event we recently went. It was an online event, and we had so much fun. Amanda, Claire, and Ben was there, and I didn't know I could I wasn't expecting that much fun from an online event, and it was really fun. And we actually kept talking even after that event. So I would say, definitely very wrong on the connection part, and in a good way. And also I would like to, a small mention, I was you get to play at least for our cohort, we got to play the Secret Santa. So you give a social award to one of your cohort members. I did that to Claire. And so we also then started bonding over our hobby, which is common for both of us, gardening. So I would say very, very wrong on not having connections part. And the last thing I would like to mention, what the takeaway from the program for me is no matter what your background is, you can be a leader, and you will be looked as a leader if you want to and work for it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Asha. All right, next up is Sam.
Okay, I assume everybody can hear me okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm also going to talk about self-discovery and contribution. Firstly, I guess before I start, I just want to say huge thank you to John and Amanda and my peer mentor group. I have felt incredibly supported this year, and that's why the subtitle of my slide is Laser, a reliable foundation for a year of unanticipated changes. And we don't need to do a deep dive into this, but this has been a very crazy year for me personally and professionally. So just to have my colleagues, not even just my peer mentor group, I feel like I've gained a lot of really wonderful friends this year through Laser. But yes, absolutely, Amanda and John, thank you. So again, I'm Sam, and Discovery and Contribution. I think going into Laser, I was not really expecting how important of a catalyst this program was going to be for my professional development. My project was at the very beginning of the year last summer. It was actually before we started any Laser classes, and I hate to sound negative about this, but it was a very humbling experience. I organized a professional development workshop series for the undergraduates in our lab, and that was about 20 students. And at the time I thought, this will be great. I know a lot about this field. I know a lot about our lab. It'll be so much fun. I'll be able to interact with the undergraduates. And as my first official teaching experience where I really had control over a project, it was, like I said, a humbling experience. I learned very quickly that Laser was going to be a crucial investment in my professional development, like I said. And so I told Amanda at the very beginning of the program that my goal was to develop some confidence and sort of establish a voice that I felt comfortable using and appreciate that I had thoughts that were valuable enough to be heard by my peers and as a leader. So this kind of bled into my research, this lack of confidence at the time. I was having a lot of issues with indecision coming up with a project, which was, it became an issue because of this professional issue that I had where my advisor actually transferred universities. So I'm actually at Colorado State right now, which is kind of a change in my world. But fortunately, I've had Laser to kind of offer a foundation that I didn't really realize that I had until the move started to happen, which was right at the beginning of COVID. But anyway, without going further into that, I guess what I have realized most importantly is that in order to really contribute both to literature and to the field that you participate in and to be a socially engaged scientist at all, you have to appreciate that each individual person has a unique form of contribution, and scientist is a very broad term. I study child development and parenting, Ben studies primate behavior, and Emily studies Shakespearean literature, and I have learned so much from my peers, and learning just about these different ways that people can contribute to their own worlds and be socially engaged researchers has been a huge growing experience for me, and that has been my most important takeaway from the Laser Project. And I just want to leave you with, I guess, specifically the researchers and maybe anybody who finds himself in a leadership position. Our job is not only to discover new ideas and contribute to whatever field you're in, but also to discover yourself so that you can confidently contribute leadership in a way that you are socially engaged and making a lasting impression on your followers. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Sam. All right, next is Claire O'Hare.
Okay, so again, I'm going to sound like a bit like a broken record as well, following on from Sam, and say a lot of the Laser program for me was self-discovery. But for me, I was interested in joining the program because I sort of think of leadership as a journey, and it was about finding a way back onto the path that I felt would be right for me. My research looks at commercial courts, but I've always had a conflict between that type of work that I find really interesting and how that can engage in a social aspect. So for me, Laser was a wonderful opportunity to actually engage and learn more about leadership and learn more from others as well, which we did a lot of, which was fantastic. And it was definitely the start where we did a lot of self-discovery and we did the reflections and the DISC processes. I learned a lot about myself and also about the parts that I maybe wanted to leave behind on this journey and the parts that I actually wanted to sort of further develop. And I would say that there was definitely an element of going along and wobbles, moments of thinking like, am I doing the right thing? How can I actually engage and be a leader? Actually, as Ashla said, like people will look to us as leaders. I think when you're doing a graduate degree and coming out at the end of the PhD, one way or another, people look to us as people with knowledge and do look to us for advice and for recommendations. And I felt like I could either lean into that or walk away from it. And so there's an element there for me of like having these moments of concern and indecision, and am I doing the right thing? But with laser, I also found like a community of other people who had similar concerns, but how are we ethical? Like, how do we become these leaders, and how do we become ethically and engaged leaders? So there was an element of recalibration of saying, you know, there is a community of scholars, there is a community of people here who have similar interests, who also want to learn these skills, which gave me a lot more energy to actually re-engage with those questions and raise my voice, similarly to what Sam said, like finding a voice again and saying, no, this is who I am, and there's only one person here in this room who can lead the life that I want, and that's me, and I can either find my voice and my path and go back on that journey or not. So for me, I found an element of energy and then direction. And with that, I think came a lot of inner peace for me and strength. So I think the wobbling there on the left side of the picture, I've managed to come back to a center, and I think to be back centered also requires a degree of strength, which I think I have found through the leadership program. But it doesn't mean to say I can't bend. And I think that's, for me, also an element of being a true leader, is learning to know when to bend and when to stay strong.
All right, thank you, Claire. Very interesting insights. Okay, up next is August.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. So I got into the laser program, and I guess we've kind of talked about it at different times, but it's, you know, leadership, advancing socially engaged research. And I've been involved with the Science Policy Initiative at Notre Dame basically since I started. And I've always been sort of interested in of this crossover where science and policy both can impact people's lives. And I looked at this kind of as an opportunity to, you know, I looked at the laser program as an opportunity to kind of go even further on this this intersection and learn about how to really socially engage people. And I thought, well, and you know, becoming a part of the laser program maybe gives me an opportunity to become a leader too, rather than just sort of learning about it. Maybe it's, you know, I'd been a part of the group for almost 3 years, and maybe it was time for me to give something back. So I decided to take on an executive leadership role, and kind of the goals that I had were, you know, really in line with the goals of the Science Policy Initiative in general. We wanted to spark this nonpartisan dialogue where science and policy overlap. And I think laser, especially on this goal, really gave me the tools I needed to succeed at this. We talked a lot about morality and philosophy, and we talked about different elements of, you know, for example, racism or, you know, classism and all of these different things. And it also gave me an opportunity to learn about the different ways that you can connect with people through some of our personal assessments. And so I looked at this as just sort of it was a really eye-opening experience trying to apply the things that I learned in order to make our organization better. And then in doing so, you know, we're just hoping to provide these opportunities for development to other students in our group. So I tried to turn around the lessons that I was learning to the people that I was now leading. And the same thing was true when we wanted to like engage our communities. So the Science Policy Initiative is at Notre Dame, but we're active at a national level and a state level and a local level. So this kind of gives us the opportunity to talk to different community leaders at different levels around us. So, for example, we had this science communication workshop, and I know that actually everyone in Laser got a chance to go through the same workshop, but we had organized it separately for our group. And we just, you know, like I said, we want to give people this ability to kind of discuss their research in non-technical terms and take the next step. So As a leader, I found out it's quite difficult to do your PhD and do laser and lead a student group. And I'm sure there are people here who have had similar experiences, but I got to kind of develop this financial plan for our group. And, you know, that was especially hard. And I thank laser for just a lot of the communication skills that we got, because it's so much more difficult to tell people no. I mean, we all wish we had infinite money to do all of the wonderful things, but sometimes you just have to be able to say no. And, you know, we organized these meetings, we did a science communication workshop, we judged the regional science fair. But my personal highlight actually was our student group was able to organize with 4 other universities in the state of Indiana to put on this it's our second annual Indiana Science Communication Day, and that actually paid for students to go to the Indiana State House to meet with their lawmakers. I actually got to meet with the district representative who represents Notre Dame, and he was really curious. I mean, he wanted to know kind of what type of work students were doing, and, you know, how they could help and how they could, you know, benefit. And I felt like that was really the epitome of this socially engaged research, because in some way we all strive to better our community. And I think, you know, I wouldn't have gotten there without laser. So I'm really thankful for that, and thankful for everybody who, you know, has helped drive those qualities in me, especially the group here. So thanks, everyone.
Great, thanks. Yeah, and for those of you that aren't familiar with the Science Policy Initiative, I do encourage you to check out that group. So next is going to be Jake.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Jake. I'm in the chemistry department. And I want to just spruce it up a little bit, show you guys some cool pictures of lasers, because who doesn't like that? But a little background, what I did for my project is I went more in the mentoring aspect. So what I did is I sort of used the first year in our lab as a way to mentor him, kind of try to employ different things that we learned in the laser program, sort of firsthand, sort of tinker around with things like that. Yeah, mainly because I didn't really have anything else where I could sort of reach out sometimes, especially in sciences where you kind of have your own project. You can kind of get stuck in your own little world where you don't really get to work with other people. So I kind of did this mentoring style, really with the aim of try to make it more open, try to make it more normal to set up these sort of loose mentorship ways, try to keep it more casual of sort of continuing that. Yeah, and so thanks to John and Amanda and everyone else along the way for everything they've done. Had a great time, learned a lot. That's it.
All right, thanks, Jake. All right, next up is going to be Laura.
Hello.
Hello.
What a weird voice. Sorry. So for my laser project this year, I was able to create a new student group titled ND Connect. Like Emily, I am an English PhD candidate who spends most of her time studying Shakespeare. And while I love my research, I often feel it doesn't allow me to spend enough time participating in acts of service in my community. However, through Laser and ND Connect this year, I work on fomenting a sense of community and belonging among underrepresented graduate fellows. That is to say, my main focus in this group was to create a safe space for scholars from diverse backgrounds so that we could all come together and help each other overcome the different obstacles that we encounter at each stage of our respective programs. We succeeded in developing a non-competitive and well-balanced space where we were all able to receive peer support while also exploring different techniques and methods with which to improve our graduate experience at Notre Dame. Now, what did I personally get from this program? Well, thanks to Laser, yes, I had that wonderful experience of working with these diversity fellows and work towards something I'm really passionate about, which is advocating for underrepresented and often marginalized communities. But moreover, Laser allowed me to learn more about myself and self-reflect on my role as a leader in our community. Through all of our workshops and discussions, I feel I have been able to improve my leadership and even interpersonal skills. While I understand that our journeys as leaders are never ending and always evolving, Laser has been crucial for me to learn new ways in which we can all be leaders, leaving a positive impact in our community. I am most thankful to all of my colleagues and peers here for their friendships, for sharing their thoughts and kindness with me, for listening to me often rant and helping me grow as a person, also for respecting each other's values, for the mentorship that we gave each other, and for teaching me how to better communicate with folks that are vastly different from me. Thanks also to John and Amanda for their guidance and support and for giving me the opportunity to participate in this program. I think it's safe to say, like everyone else, that I will always cherish our time here together and our discussions about the benefits of improv shows and bumper stickers. And I very much look forward to taking over Amanda's job and serving as the next year's Laser mentor. I only hope I can be at least half of how amazing Amanda was to us. So thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, Laura. Up next is Kimberly from Halfway Around the World.
Hi, everyone. Yes, and I'm still halfway around the world. So I would like to thank everyone, including John and Amanda, and also everyone else who is sitting here listening to all of our experiences and learning journeys. I would say that what allowed me to learn the most is the simple act of being with and learning from everyone in this program. I was constantly inspired by the tenacity and resilience of every individual in this team. And when we came together to discuss different topics, I often find myself learning, on hindsight, about my biases, how my experiences have shaped me, and how to better communicate my thoughts, especially when we are discussing difficult topics like race, class, and research ethics. To be sure, being a non-white and a non-American is sometimes challenging even within the laser context. Our values are not always the same, and our priorities and preferences do not always align. Yet, everyone in this group has made me feel really safe. I was comfortable sharing my failures and my half-baked thoughts, and because of this safe space, I was able to reflect on my position, and I became willing to hear and properly consider alternative views on many issues. Perhaps because of these difficult discussions and reflections, I felt the need to act when I found some of these conversations to be lacking within some communities in Singapore, my home country. And this need turned out to form the basis of my laser project. Last month, Singapore held an election. Many Singaporeans challenged the incumbent and proposed or supported many policy alternatives. One of these alternatives is the demolition of the Special Assistance Plan schools, otherwise known as SAP schools, which is abbreviated by the letters S, A, and P in the word cloud, which you see in the slide. SAP schools are elementary and high schools that cater to the top 10% of the cohort. However, in addition to catering to the top scorers, these are also schools that focus on bilingualism, and specifically English and Mandarin. What this means in a multiracial country like Singapore, where Chinese, Malays, Indians, and Eurasians coexist, is that SAP schools create an elite group of Chinese students. Put differently, the very existence of SAP schools is a racial issue, especially when no such schools exist for non-Chinese groups and when SAP schools receive a somewhat large amount of funding from the government. As you can see from the slide, proponents of such demolition have thought that SAP schools are a challenge to democracy, meritocracy, equality, representation, and resource distribution, amongst others. Being an alumna of one of these SAP schools, I was, of course, biased towards their retention. Despite my preference, a friend and I thought that it is really important for students in our alma mater to talk about our privilege and about what we can actively do to mitigate some of these negative consequences should we decide to defend the value of SAP schools. Hence, over these few months, we spoke with those who thought differently than us, and we spoke with teachers and students to get all of us to start thinking actively about the issue of SAP schools. There is no clear outcome yet to report. However, we were happy to get this whole process started. We are now at a stage of exploring the issue, getting people to talk about it, and encouraging ourselves to think more creatively about solutions. Most importantly, I have Laser and this cohort to thank for teaching or showing me the skills and attitudes that have proven very useful for beginning such conversations. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Kimberly, and thank you for the update on what you've been doing. Next up is Matt.
Hey, so I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to be here because I had an overlap with a teaching thing, so I kind of just wrote something that I didn't actually have to be here for, just in case that was the case. Number one, which I would actually put at the top of the list, is show up, but I didn't want to say that and then not. So this is like unsolicited advice that I would have given myself if I was coming into this program for the first time. I gained a lot from Laser. I know that sounds kind of vague, but I didn't want to assume anyone's journey is going to be the same or similar to mine. So I just wanted to say a few things that I think helped me along my journey. Another very cliche thing is you get out what you put in, and it's very true in this program. Like many other people have mentioned, the people in the discussion are the best part of Laser. Never assume that you have nothing to contribute. Please talk. Don't just sit there in silence. It's kind of awkward. You shouldn't be like, oh, I've completed this program and now I know everything there is to know about leadership either. Like, it's a journey, it's a process. You're really never done learning. And as long as you're like continuing on your journey, you're getting better. It's growth. That's important. Being uncomfortable is an opportunity for growth. And it's very important to bring up those uncomfortable moments and say those uncomfortable things. Your group will support you if it's anything like mine was. And it's cool if you're wrong. It's opportunity to learn from it. Also, keys, wallet, phone, very important if you're leaving the house. Something that came up a lot during my journey through this program was this book, Range by David Epstein. Maria Gibbs brought it up in one of the workshops. We had a panel with some past cohort members that also mentioned this. And then I used it as like a teaching tool, me and Laura, for how to effectively work together as a team. So I think that if you have any interest in things outside of your narrow field of research and you have broad interests in general, it's a actually good book recommendation, and obviously you're here. So that tells me that you do have more interest. Also, and this one's probably the most important, is the most polarizing thing you can possibly talk about in Laser is not politics, it's not abortion, it's not racism or religion, it's 100% bumper stickers. So if you want people to get really mad and yell, or just have interesting conversation, bring that up.
All right, thanks, Matt. And yes, that was the most polarizing conversation I think we had all year. So, all right, thank you. Next up is Michael.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Rotolo, and I'm starting my 5th year in the sociology department. So my Laser project largely revolved around a grant I received, which was focused on learning about and engaging young adults, and particularly identifying how religious communities can better serve the needs of young people today. My dissertation research focuses on how young people develop their moral and religious views during the transition to adulthood, so it's kind of a perfect fit. So this grant involved me conducting surveys, interviews, and focus groups with young people, being a part of a local church's young adult group, teaching local organizations about the unique challenges young adults experience today, and also the opportunity to lead a group of young adults on a 10-day fully funded pilgrimage to Scotland, which is where I am in the bottom photo. But I think as I think about my Laser journey as a whole, the more prominent story that stands out is sort of my own pilgrimage of professional identity this past year. Specifically, a shift from asking, what does it mean to be an academic and a leader, to imagining what can it mean to be an academic and a leader. I would say a year ago, as I started Laser, I had a lot of uncertainty about what my future would hold. So much of early grad school is about being socialized into a culture. You know, you have to learn the right theories, the methods, the status hierarchy. the unspoken rules, and it can kind of be overwhelming. So for me, I think I was at least beginning to question whether academia was a place I could best live out my calling, and to be honest, a place where I could get a job that I actually desire. So over the past year, and definitely through the resources and the conversations we had through Laser, I think I gained the confidence to put many of these worries aside and started doing more of what I thought I needed and wanted to do as an academic and a leader. And in doing so, and in parallel with my research, I found ways to be involved in the local community. I found ways to present my research publicly, including at a church, downtown at the Sanctuary Center, to the South Bend Rotary Club, and at a statewide gathering of 40 religious communities in Indianapolis. I started writing op-eds. My one young adult has been rejected in the double digits now, but I recently wrote a provocative one this spring on religion and the coronavirus, and that one found a great home. My wife and I, we got to go with others on pilgrimage to Scotland, which was a great time of exploration and renewal for us. And after all of that, I just found out my research on religion and young people was accepted in the top academic journal on religion. So really excited about that. But just taking all this together, I'd say I think I now feel more empowered to keep doing the things I want to do and pioneering some of the qualities I think are important for academics and leaders rather than trying to an increasingly outdated template from the past. And the discernment I've done through Laser has been, totally critical, huge part of that. So I'm thankful to John and Amanda and all my other Laser colleagues for the resource and community they've offered this past year. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Michael. Up next is Claire.
Hello, everybody. So in order to understand why I decided to join the Laser program, we have to go back to the future a little. And in 2016, as a spritey 52-year-old undergrad, I attended a summer research opportunity program hosted by Notre Dame's Graduate School in 2016. During that time, students were encouraged to apply for a variety of fellowships and grants, one of which was the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program. So in my personal statement in that application, I stated that if awarded the NSF GRFP and if accepted at Notre Dame, I would continue to draw attention to the influence, experience, and skills that women and people of color possess, and how they're able to contribute to my particular field, which is psychology and law. And in the statement, I stated that along with my academic work and training, my career goals included the development, motivation, and inspiration of students of color and women who, who had few influential Black women exemplars in our chosen field. Needless to say, a few months after that, 2017, I was selected for an NSF GRFP. However, my application to Notre Dame had been declined. But my current advisor, once he heard that I had been awarded the fellowship, called and asked if I would still be interested in accepting, and I said yes. So here I am. Now, my journey through the program was not an easy one, and my first 2 years in my department was met with rejection and being made to feel uncomfortable, and I lost my way a little. But then I was introduced to Laser. And once I was introduced to Laser, who knew that at 55, I had a lot that I could still learn. So before we even had any of our sessions for this semester, we were given several books to read. One of them was called The Truth About Leadership, which helped me reconnect with my core goals, which helped me reconnect with my statement and sort of grow beyond my feelings of wanting to leave, and I reconnected with my goals and my promise in my NSF statement. So my project at Laser was similar to a few of us. I connected with being a mentor, and one of the assessments that we had was the DISC assessment, where I learned, which was no surprise to me and perhaps my husband who's watching, that I'm an influencer and a dominator. So I use those skills to be able to develop my personality to be more of a mentor. And I reached out to Nicole, who had similar interests as I do in psychology and law. So Nicole, and developing my skills as a leader was my Laser project. Nicole was able, with my mentoring, Nicole decided that she was going to do an honors thesis as an undergrad, which she did, and she completed the program and passed. But during that time, she was submitting applications to several PhD programs, and she got rejected. And I didn't know that she was submitting her applications. And when I heard that she was rejected, I tried to help her. And she applied to 2 universities, Sam Houston State and American University, 2 universities that I applied to because they had the same program. And lo and behold, she got into Sam Houston State. She would not have submitted her application, A, because she hadn't heard of the university, and B, because if I hadn't mentored her. So our experience together led me, and my time at Laser and working with my cohorts and growing, even at 55, and I think I'm 56 now, I decided that I was going to use what I learned to create the Inked mentorship program, starting off in my own department. And Inked, while the word is still sort of growing, it's either included or inclusive and diverse at Notre Dame. The goal is to mentor women and women of color in psychology and law. The goal is to diversify the area and create more women and women of color in private practice, research, and faculty positions in the field of psychology and law. Hopefully this will grow and into other departments, but right now I have to start somewhere, and this is where Laser has led me. So I'd like to thank John and Amanda and everybody else for helping this young and spritey undergrad still realize that she has a lot to learn and a lot of growing, and I could not be where I am today, but for everybody in this cohort and for Amanda and John, so thank you.
Claire, thank you so much. Just for everyone who is in the audience, we have 2 more speakers and then a very short closing. So want to give them the same amount of time. So we're going to run a little bit over, but hopefully everyone can stick around to hear the last 2 speakers. So up next then is going to be John.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Templeton. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all to my cohort, John and Amanda. Start off with that. It was a really great experience throughout the entire year. I really enjoyed being able to work with everybody and use this as a time for self-discovery and personal growth, as a lot of people have said. But obviously, like Matt said as well, everybody's experience is going to be different. So the incoming cohort, I wish you well and use this opportunity to kind of learn about yourself. This course let me renew values and aspects of certain things that I've learned from other leadership opportunities, starting in Boy Scouts, kind of through undergraduate to my PhD here at Notre Dame, and then into the Laser program. And it ultimately, like Ben said, lets you give a deep dive into more things that you've already learned and lets you learn new skills that help more than just in leadership, but in your day-to-day life. Yeah, they help in the teaching that you're going to be doing or your mentorship for your research, but just your friendships, your relationships with family members, neighbors, just being a genuine good person, being able to, the communication is one of the utmost important things that I learned in this course. It let me obtain new outlooks and perspectives thanks to all the diversity in the program, which I really enjoyed. I feel like as a scientist, we get very comfortable being only talking to other scientists, but we need to talk to policymakers. We need to talk to people of other majors, other interests to really grow and connect everything together. All the class helped me receive valuable opportunities to put my lessons into practice through the teaching that I do, through the mentorship of undergrads that I have, and then again, just day-to-day practice here as well. So thank you to everybody, John and Amanda, my cohort, and then the new cohort. I wish you well in the program going forward.
Great, thanks, John. All right, and our final insights are going to be from Michelle.
Great. Hello. It's been really interesting to be last because I think the first time I heard this all, when we were sort of in your new cohort position, the word that kept coming out was life-changing. And this time it's interesting because it's self-discovery. And the reason I find that interesting is because I actually had two really good friends go through the first cohort, and self-discovery was like the one thing that I wanted the whole time through. But really what came out is, if I can say, my experiences really pushed it down into 3 different categories. And before I get into it, I'll go into my slide first, which is like, what is this perfect masterpiece, right? And I think everyone can sort of relate to this in a way where sometimes, whether it's from other people, our parents, or even from ourselves, we have these expectations where it's almost like you have the most perfect frame and you're trying to create the most perfect masterpiece to go with that perfect frame. And it becomes really daunting at times too, because all of a sudden you make, there are great times you're doing really well, and then you make a mistake, right? And that's happened to me. And it seems like throughout this coronavirus, it's happened to multiple people where we've all got thrown across the wall. But the thing that I like to think about that is like, when we think about those experiences, at least how I'm hearing it from everyone else and how I've taken it, is that while we're like focusing on this like really dark spot or this mistake that we've made, ultimately this perfect masterpiece comes out from all the different colors and experiences that you make. And so what I've really learned as sort of the first thing is being able to tie these experiences long term. So we've talked a lot about values, and I've been able to see what sort of values I've had either through early childhood, through my undergrad now, or even the future values that I've always had, just never worked on, just how that correlates together to create this sort of like masterpiece that I'm eventually going to make sometimes. Who knows what it's going to be, right? But the big thing, the second thing that I learned, which I think is the biggest thing that everyone keeps talking about, is this authenticity. I think rarely, the more I reflect on it, the more I'm convinced that rarely, even with our own inner circles, do we have an opportunity to talk about these really deep discussions and stuff like that. And really, because like your goals, your future terms, and like things that make you uncomfortable, because you're uncomfortable. And so you want to try and change the subject, but it's really nice to have this open area to be able to have that authenticity, because I think the way that it's really made me grow as an individual is learning who my leaders are, where all the leaders are, and realizing, that a leader isn't just really in a context in a professional setting, and that we're already leaders in some way. But what's great is to really develop it into the third category that I've learned is really understanding other people, right? And so now that I understand that I'm sort of like painstakingly trying to create this perfect masterpiece for this perfect frame, well, it makes sense that probably everyone else is trying to do something very similar. And it gives me this huge context and understanding of just like what bumps mean and what colors mean to different people. And I think as we sort of mentioned in our different workshops, and was sort of accumulated in John's talk that just happened before mine, his workshop was just what was about leadership. And the great thing I like, and I guess the overall sum, is that what I got out of Laser was just a toolkit that I could use that could follow me along any sort of journey that I want. And it was a way that I can constantly improve myself and improve others around me as well, in a way that, benefits everyone and also makes everyone, overall happier. So yeah, that's my sort of 3 cents on it.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. So hopefully everyone can see why I was so appreciative of having the opportunity to be on this journey with this group. And every cohort has been different, and I think that is valuable as well. And everyone's been able to witness the unique contributions and experiences of these 16 students. And when this meeting's over, the next group's up. And they're going to bring their own unique contributions, and they're going to have their own experience. And I think that's one of the more exciting things, at least for me. And I usually start this meeting off saying this is one of my favorite days of the year, but forgot to do that. So I'm going to end with, this has been one of my favorite days of the year. Listening to these students, and the expectation for the group that's wrapping up isn't if they're going to lead. The expectation is when. And one of the goals of this program has been to have them to think about that and have some experiences and learn about themselves and learn from each other, so that when they are asked to lead, they have some skills, and they have the skill and ability to do just that. So Amanda messaged me, and she wants to say one other thing. So I'm going to stop talking. When Amanda's done with what she wants to say, we'll conclude the meeting, and I will see both cohorts in our next meeting right after this. So if we could just give a quick round of applause for everybody who spoke and have been through this year together. So thank you all. And then I'll turn it over to Amanda.
Yeah, so one of the things that I forgot to do in the beginning was to formally pass the torch to Laura. So I just want to formally do that in front of everyone to make sure they know that the next year's cohort is in great hands with Laura as a mentor. She doesn't have to worry about filling any shoes. She is absolutely wonderful, and she's going to do great. And I'm really proud of her transformation and her next steps coming up. And last but not least, I think the person that needs a round of applause is John. Laser has received national recognition for being trailblazing, and this project, our growth, the connections we've made would absolutely not be possible without him. So hats off to John. And that's all I have. So thank you everybody for coming.
All right, thanks everybody, and hopefully we'll see you 365 days from now at the next one. Take care.